Hello, thanks for checking out this video. The theme of my video today is ICE is ethnic cleansing, what ICE is doing in the United States. And any white person with any kind of conscience at this point should be denouncing it, even if you're a Canadian and not an American. And I'll explain all of these things now. But yes, ICE is going around in the States, and what they're doing is just a form of ethnic cleansing because America is a dying capitalist system that's converting over to a type of like neo-feudalism and fascism. It has elements of both of these things coming together, and I would just say that America is basically also becoming as it becomes more fascistic, it's trying to become like a white nation again. It's always been America to me is not a civilized country to begin with, and it's just a racist, disgusting place. For many reasons. It's just like the whole ethos of it and its history and everything. It's just narcissism and, entitlement and white people taking land and territory and doing all this other bullshit. And it's just bad. So anyway, I know a lot of people just think that ICE is necessary, that the United States has been invaded by immigrants. Basically, for all of you that are watching, if you're right wing or left wing, let me just say this because everyone will agree on this. Even the conservatives, this is I can tell the right wing people what they believe because they've been telling me, so I know this. The right wing position on this is that, it's a nationalistic position, and immigrants are, if they're illegal, then by definition they should be removed because they're illegal. The United States government has its right to decide who can be a citizen and who can't, and if these people have snuck in, then they should be allowed to be deported immediately, and there's no moral problem with this. And ICE, while they may be abusing some people, it's necessary to get rid of all these criminals, and so it's just the innocent people that are getting beat up by ICE here and there. They're just unfortunate collateral damage, and they feel kind of bad for them, they say, but whatever. And that's just how they see this. And it's not ethnic cleansing, of course. It's just getting rid of illegals. But that's such a childish and just dishonest way of viewing things. The reality is that they're obviously anyone that has a more mature understanding of the world, just as a human being, understands how interconnected the world is. So if you're ignorant enough to still have this nationalistic perspective where you don't understand the human condition and why people are and how economics work and why America is the way it is and why people are there. America lures in people. It's a corrupt country basically, and it lures in people for cheap labor. And the government doesn't hire them. American, private people hire these people. And a lot of the economy is built on exploiting the cheap labor of people who are desperate, immigrants. They're lured in. And they come to America overall, usually for a better standard of material living, of life. And it seems simple to people, well, America's a better country and these people need to stay in their own countries and get their shit together. And to elaborate on that, I'd have to, there's so much to unpack because, people who are uneducated just don't know a lot. But, I want to try to keep explaining to people, here's a good book to start with that I wish a lot of people had read. It's Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. And if you want to read it, you can get a hard copy at the library like I did. But I first was exposed to this, almost 20 years ago at Carleton University. And it's a former CIA agent explaining how he would go around. And this is the thing that the conservative mind doesn't acknowledge. Most of the developing world is the way it is because of American imperialism. It's kept that way. They're not allowed to become a first world country. They're not allowed to become America because America wants a hierarchy. It's imposing this on the world. Americans have cognitive dissonance because they think of their country as a beacon of freedom and democracy, but they are an empire. They have military bases all over the world, and they're essentially imposing, through military hegemon and the use of, they have superior technology and a military that's, multiple times bigger than anyone else's military. They have nuclear bombs. So they've set up a system where they're on top, and they use the CIA, and they are part of an empire. And this is just one book that I wish people, there's so much to unpack. I wish people would also had read more Chomsky, right? Media control, or just, Bernays and propaganda, because I don't know where to begin the conversation if people don't understand how thorough and sophisticated and intense the American propaganda machine is that those of us who grew up in Canada and the US are raised under. It's all media, it's the news, it's Hollywood, it's everything. How do they form these narratives that are thought control? And then we're raised on certain narratives, and there's truth in some of it, and then there's a whole lot of bias because Americans it feeds on people's innate narcissism, their way of being unable to accept that their own group isn't the best, right? So Americans just eat this shit up. But think about America, right? Their whole attitude is manifest destiny. They just came to North America with the attitude, the political attitude that comes out of Protestantism, which it's a religious justification that manifests this thing. They're just entitled to the whole continent. They brought slaves with them. A bunch of rich people basically brought slaves over and started these colonies, and they genocide the natives, and then they create this thing that eventually rebels from Britain and becomes its own power structure by being an opportunist country and taking, at the end of World War II, they swoop in and Britain passes the torch over, and they've got this continent-wide country now in this military that will always keep the rich elite American system on top. And America is just it's part of an Anglo-American empire. And if you're a Canadian, this is why there's multiple reasons that you all, I'm talking not by you all, any white man watching this, like even if you're Canadian, why should we care about this? For a couple of reasons. One, I'll be honest with all of you guys. I think it is inevitable that eventually Canada becomes part of America. I think they've always just humored our existence, because in the future there will be a conflict between America and another superpower, like a World War III, and the environment's going to get shitty. It's already getting shitty. And basically we have all the free water with the Great Lakes and a bunch of other natural resources and oil. And I think like they're just sitting there as reserves, but when America needs them, they're just going to take them. It's just going to be one day when America just needs this stuff, they're just going to expand and kind of take over. Like we don't have, like Canada doesn't have an ability to actually stop them. So whether or not they just one day like declare like because it's World War III and they now just need us stuff that they're just taking over, or they could do it just politically by like, because the economy is rigged and they control it, they could just, if they wanted to, just basically crash our economy and then force us to be absorbed economically. One way or the other, though, I think it's inevitable that we become part of America. So if America is turning into a fascist, white supremacist, Christian nationalist shithole, authoritarian nightmare, that's going to be obviously relevant to us. Second of all, even if we didn't become American, we're their fucking neighbor and we have to deal with this, so that should be obvious. And then third, as white men, we're obviously benefiting from the fact that this system is the way it is. And the thing about white guilt and stuff, I don't have white guilt because I don't feel personally responsible for white colonization or anything other white people did. Neither should you if you didn't have any agency in it. That's why I don't like religion either. I don't believe in original sin or anything but that. I believe in agency, and free will dictates, like, you can't inherit sin, put it that way. Where was I going with this? Yeah, like as a white guy, you shouldn't feel guilty about anything, but like you should feel greasy from just knowing that you're benefiting from stuff that like other people don't have. Like it's like dirty money, basically, like accepting dirty money if you're not condemning like and being self-aware of like what this is. Because also keep in mind, I want these people that might be criticizing me right now, white guys and stuff, like I'm not coming at this from a privileged wealthy perspective. I'm at the bottom of the social hierarchy, and I barely get by paying my bills, and like I'm not even middle class, so and I have to work for my money. I'm not on social assistance, so I'm coming at this at the perspective of a white working class man from the bottom, and I'm still saying this. You have to have some like larger awareness to understand like whiteness and country, and Canada is that's why all the other immigrants are trying to get in here, because their countries are usually destroyed by, let's be honest, a lot of it is the CIA just fucking shit up. But a lot of the developing world is not allowed to ever succeed. It's a way of just like imposing it's an illusion that a lot of the world can break free of this imposed hierarchy that the military puts on it. So identity, in America, especially like America, like white identity matters. And what is happening psychologically, like, is white people are losing their territory and they're freaking out. And a big thing with the immigrants is that people don't like white people don't like the idea that other non-white immigrants could come to the country and then do better than them in like one generation or something. It kind of embarrasses them, and they fucks with their egos and stuff. So there is a lot of projection going on. I mean, I feel when I talk to a lot of conservatives, like they just don't have the sophistication to admit that there's a lot of broad social phenomenon going on that we can kind of observe, and they want to like try to always like look at things according to like simple over precise definitions and stuff like this. And it's like, are you blind right now? Thing with ICE in the States that's crazy to me is like every single morning I can wake up and look at 50 different videos of ICE agents acting sadistic. Maybe I'll edit some into this video, like throwing kids on the ground, throwing handcuffed people on the ground, their heads are cracking open, and then the cops these ICE agents are mocking them, or like telling 10-year-old girls that they have like zip tied to shut the fuck up and stuff. Like, it's sadism. It's not just carrying out like a necessary duty to get rid of immigrants. There's sadism involved in this, and these people, ICE agents are getting paid like $1,000 per illegal that they get rid of, and a lot of these people are like, they're cowards, right? Like if these guys, I don't understand how you can feel empowered as a man by being I've never understood this about men. Like even like my own grandfather, who's like a tough fucking huge man. Like, how can beating up a woman or someone weaker than you make you feel empowered? How can even cheating at anything make you empowered? I don't even understand people that cheat at boxing to win boxing. Like, how do you feel bigger if you know you cheated? I've never understood this. How does beating up on someone weaker than you make you feel empowered? If I had a deficit in my ego and I needed to feel manly or braver, and I was trying to convince myself of this and not other people, I would go to war. That's a trap. I'm not telling anyone to join the army and go to war, but I'm saying like at least men that go to war, there's some balls in that, because the brown people can shoot back at you, right? These ICE agents are like, they're absolute pussies that just enjoy getting paid to go around and round up people that they can dehumanize and abuse. And we know this because unlike Nazi Germany, which we can't witness, we know a lot of how bad things were through testimony, but this is different. We can witness this in the age of social media. We can see their behavior of these people, of these ICE agents. This isn't justified. There's just so much abuse going on. The vast majority of illegal immigrants who are being removed by us are not criminals. So this isn't a crime thing either. Like, I think it's less than 10% of all the immigrants being removed are criminals, okay? And like most of these people are already established here and they've been lured in here because the entire American economy is based on exploiting illegal labor. And that's why it is fun to kind of watch a lot of these Republican rural states that get fucked over, like the farmers that lost their soybean contracts. They all deserve, it's all karma. They deserve everything they're getting. And I feel like this America, like if you're in reality and you're watching what's happening and the direction they're going, it could easily turn into Nazi Germany or worse, when in terms of literally like murder and the destruction, and probably a third world war that eventually comes by the end of the decade, right? So I'm saying right now, anyone with a conscience and a brain who is actually genuinely educated too and has knowledge, if you want to pretend like you're an educated person, like you have to denounce what's going on morally, like ISIS behavior entirely. And you should also acknowledge what it really is. It's a form of ethnic cleansing under like the justification of removing illegal immigrants, which are just scapegoats, just like in Nazi Germany. The reality is you've got a shitty over-competitive system, and it can't last. Capitalism isn't a sustainable thing. It's a transition period. It naturally results in a small amount of people owning everything in the end. It's like a game of Monopoly. People have been trying to explain this to like idiots since it started, basically. And America is running, the truth is, it's running its course, and now people are mad and they don't understand the problems they have, so they're just projecting everything on to a scapegoat. It's like textbook, and they're just, using this as an excuse also to, ethnically cleanse, purify the country and try to make it more white. And the politicians now have they're getting caught in America, like these Republicans with like swastikas on their calendars that they forget to take down when they're out doing live streams and stuff. And like the fact that they're not even trying to really hide their fascism anymore. So it's become an exercise in denialism when you're talking to a conservative, even a Canadian, who denies that like America and Charlie Kirk and all these people are fascistic. Like you got to be doing some insane mental gymnastics to not understand that. I'm going to make another video to keep this one short, but I'm going to respond to some criticism I've gotten to, but I'll make this suggestion to people. If you're really critical of Marxism, and then more specifically like Marxist-Leninism, which I have lots of criticisms of. I'm not a Marxist-Leninist, but to understand any of that stuff, you have to understand that it is happening in reaction or in defiance of imperialism. So you can't really understand the mindset or the motivations or the really like what's happening with Marxist-Leninism if you don't actually if you're not in reality about American imperialism. If you're just another propagandized person who doesn't acknowledge it or understand it. I understand how you're going to never really understand what's going on with Marxist-Leninism, even if not as someone who's even endorsing it. I'm just trying to get people to better understand things. Like most right-wingers at this point are like, certain things literally correlate for a reason, like education and being and good art is always going to be left-wing for a reason. And right-wing people usually don't like those things, and a lot of the narratives, just a lot of stuff that they believe it's coming through YouTube and a bunch of like astroturfed stuff, and it's just not a supplement for education. And the problem also is education has become corrupt and shitty quality. So I don't know what the real solution is other than to try to like do stuff like this to supplement people, to have even types of book clubs and talking about like relative stuff, because self-education is important. It's just you have to kind of be trained in how to self-educate, because YouTube isn't an alternative. Anyway, these are my thoughts, and it's just a reality check for people that ICE is ethnically cleansing the United States, and they're morally repugnant and disgusting fascists. And let me know if you disagree. Thanks, guys.